I'm looking at 27 now. 27 is the, well, we can count it up from 23. It's the fifth pulse of 23 of same 2. And so 27, the Sergus, represents the inner foundation of same 2. So that same 2 is a measure, recall, has to do with righteousness, the upper righteousness and all that. The inner foundation of that upper righteousness, that righteousness that's there with the same 2, is found in the Sergus, the inner foundation of that. Now on earth we have the foundation must be, it has to sit on the earth, it has to sit on the ground. Well, our spiritual pyramid, so to speak, has to sit on a ground. But what's the density of that ground? What's the conditions of the ground? What are its qualities that it has? And so how is it situated with regard to the ideal pyramid and the ideal, the all highest pyramid? We can understand that there is this Iaio there with the pyramid itself, as well as where we are within that pyramid. What's the size of our righteousness? As we descend in the pyramid, the scope of our righteousness, the field of our righteousness increases. But it also makes it more difficult to gain mastery over a larger field than it is to gain mastery over a smaller field. And yet man starts in this larger field and has to come as close as he can to righteousness in order to rise up, to transcend, to ascend, to move up. And so we don't totally master the entire lowest field when we rise up, but we can come back and revisit that and gain mastery in that sense, in that way, and through, for example, returning to a world as an Ethereal worker, as an archangel who's working to help uplift the people that are there, that are in this lowest field. And how do you do that? Maybe perhaps as a Lord at some point. So there is a considerable amount of Iaio in regard to the pyramid itself, as to its qualities, where a person is with regard to the pyramid itself. And part of that measure then, in measuring that, we can do that with 28. 27, but 27, for another thing that 27 represents is the 7, the limitations, or the fullness that comes out of wisdom, of number 2. 2 is wisdom, and 7 is the fullness, but it's also the extreme, and it's also the understanding, and all the things that we had spoken about before, previously. So this limit, recall that 7 also has that collapse. It has that movement. It has that movement into the center. With the pyramid, we're told that, and we know that Jehovah is the upright shaft. He's the all upright. He's the all perfect, the all center. He is the center shaft. Jehovah says, I am the central shaft. All else do goy. Everyone else goes. Everyone else slants. But as we rise in ascension, we draw closer to that all upright. And we become, to those who look from far beneath, they all look upright. We can't tell the difference ourselves from an Orion chief or Navanian chief as far as their soul light goes, and we look, because they're just all bright, look like bright suns, radiant, and who knows, who can tell? They all look straight and upright, and so that's from a distance. But when you draw up closer to them, amongst their peers, they can tell. So it's always here with us. These symbols, these forms, these realities of the soul, and we're given ways to understand how to perceive and how to read the soul of things, the forms of things, and the progression of things. With 28 then, which is the Gao, we can measure certain things. It's the regeneration that comes out of wisdom, 28. But it's also the sixth from the same two, or from the foundation. And so it has this connection with the ideal, because that's what we're looking for with the Gao. And we're looking to see, the all upright and the level horizon, the all level horizon, and the straightness. If we use the Gao, we can tell if something is true or not true. And this was one of the, there was a time in man's development, those of you who have read Oahspe can recall, that man learned through his language. He had a language called Gao, meaning the all perfect, or the perfect measurement. How do you measure the perfection, and how do you measure the all ideal? And when something was Gao, it was true, and when it was Magao, meaning before the Gao, before it became true, it was that's another word for untrue. It was either true or not true. Man learned how, during this period of development, how to discern essentially the ideal from what isn't ideal. Because recall we talked about that earlier, that about the ideal, and people have different ideals, and so we can measure all these things. If we look at what 28 is also an objectification of, not only of the Sergus, but above it is Dang. So it's the objectification of Dang. So what is light? And so we're actually, it's a manner of measuring light. We can look upon Gao as being that type of a tool. Similarly, we could look at the Sergus, 27, and understand that the Sergus is an objectification of the water, of faith, essentially, of faith, as well as 27 being an objectification of the Goy, of that which is not all good, not all bad, the me and in between the two. So even as 27, the Sergus, is the objectification of faith, so 28, the Gao, is the objectification of light.